All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, there's an old saying that you cannot have two bulls in a pen. Why is that? Because they're constantly going to keep clashing over control of the herd. And we see that oftentimes on sports teams. When you have too many headstrong individuals, it causes confusion on the team. Now, when it comes to the NFL, it's widely known that the wide receiver position is normally associated with being a quote-unquote diva, meaning attention mongering. They always want the camera in their face. They always want to be considered the star, even if they're not the prime mover. This has pretty much led to the demise of Antonio Brown because I believe that his essential nature as an agent of chaos has clashed with Ben Roethlisberger's essential nature as an agent of chaos, so one of them has to go. Even though Antonio Brown is definitely a better wide receiver than Ben Roethlisberger is a quarterback, it's far easier to develop another wide receiver out of the draft than it is to develop a quarterback. So that means Antonio Brown has to go, which has pretty much been all the signs coming out of Pittsburgh. The owner, Art Rooney, has pretty much made it known that we are going to consider moving him if we can get the right package. Now, they happen to run into Mr. Julio Jones. For those of you who don't know, Julio Jones is considered, if not the best wide receiver, probably the second best wide receiver in the NFL after Antonio Brown. Some people consider him to be even better than Antonio Brown. He plays for the Atlanta Falcons. And the reporter slash interviewer slash cameraman basically asked Julio Jones how he would feel if the Atlanta Falcons were to bring in Antonio Brown. And he pretty much let it be known in a very straightforward fashion, we don't need him here. In other words, Julio Jones knows who Antonio Brown really is, and that's what I tried to explain to a lot of cats. I had a couple of brothers try to go back and forth with me about Antonio Brown, basically saying that it's Ben Roethlisberger's fault. No, it's both their fault. It's not only both their fault, it's also the coach's fault. It's also the general manager's fault. It's the owner's fault for allowing this culture to develop. So now you basically have to get rid of anybody who's expendable and try to start fresh. And Antonio Brown is expendable because you already have another receiver in Juju Smith-Schuster who can replace him. So he's going to be the one to be jettisoned, not Big Ben Roethlisberger. But let's just get back to the point. What is it that Julio Jones knows about Antonio Brown's shenanigans in the locker room? Or is it just that he believes that he's the number one guy and he's not being targeted enough as it is in his mind, and Antonio Brown is only going to take away some of his targets? So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
A huge NFL star has a message for Antonio Brown. Hey, bro, we don't want you on our team. Welcome to TMZ Sports. I've been here with Van Lathan. What up? Michael J. Babcock. What up? Man, Antonio Brown, the drama in Pittsburgh continues to grow, man. You know, the last thing we heard was yesterday when the Pittsburgh Steelers owner said that he doesn't think that Antonio Brown is going to be in Pittsburgh next season. Begging the question, where is he going to end up next?
There are betting sites that have actually put out odds on where AB will land, and the odds say it's going to be the Atlanta Falcons.
Well, that's really it.
To be honest with you, I think the best place for Antonio Brown will probably be Green Bay. I'm not sure if they would be able to acquire him because I'm not sure if they would have enough to offer the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I think that Green Bay would be a perfect landing spot for Antonio Brown. That would place him in the NFC as opposed to the AFC, so they wouldn't have to worry about having to deal with Antonio Brown twice a year or in the playoffs or in the AFC Championship game per se. And it would also definitely help out Aaron Rodgers, who needs a real potent threat, particularly in these last 4 or 5 years of his career.
Really interesting because we got Julio Jones out. Julio Jones, of course, is one of the best receivers in the National Football League. He's a stud. He's a future Hall of Famer.
Star of the Falcons.
Key part of that Falcons team. So we got him out. We said, look, man, how do you feel about Antonio Brown possibly joining you guys in Atlanta? And what Julio Jones said, I think, is pretty interesting stuff. Take a look.
What do you think about AB maybe joining the Falcons? Would you like to see that? Antonio?
They said, what you think about AB joining the Falcons? He said, who that? Come on, nigga. You know who they talking about. Knock it off.
Antonio Brown, would you like to see him join the Falcons? Nah, man. We tight over here. We good over here.
My man Julio Jones said, we tight over here. We good over here. In other words, to translate, he said, you know what? Let that little troublemaking nigga stay wherever the hell he's at. I've heard stories about his ass. And look, nothing against Julio Jones, but he reminds me of Jerry Rice his last couple years in Oakland, when he had that chia pet shit on top of his head and he had a damn 6'4" head. Like, come on, man. Just shave it off. It's okay.
Whoa,
we tight over here. We're good over here.
That's a thanks, but no thanks.
That's a thanks, but no thanks. And when he said we're tight over here, does he mean that the team is tight and they don't want to introduce anything into the locker room?
Antonio Brown brings drama, man. I mean, there's huge problems in Pittsburgh because he doesn't get along with Ben Roethlisberger. He's got all these issues off the field where he allegedly threw furniture off the deck of his apartment in Miami. He was busted speeding. He's had.
Now, I remember when they reported that Antonio Brown had thrown some of his furniture off the deck of his apartment in Miami. Now, I had the segment and was going to do a video on that event where they reported that Antonio Brown was throwing his furniture off the deck of his apartment in Miami. But I said, you know what, I'll leave it alone for now. Brothers think when I make these videos that I'm just that I'm just trying to place titles on people. Number one, I can see things. I can see people's energies. That's number one. Number two, normally I'm able to compile a series of events that to me equate to enough empirical data to be able to arrive at a conclusion that is going to bear fruit down the road. That's why I say things about a lot of these so-called notable figures and celebrities, so on and so forth, sports figures or what have you. I've been telling brothers about Antonio Brown since last year. Even my brother Chris tried to get on me because he's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan when I tried to align, or when I did align Antonio Brown with Odell Beckham. He's like, no, Antonio Brown don't cause trouble like Odell. I told him, yes, he does. You're going to see. You're going to see.
I called a former teammate and Uncle Tom. I mean, there are issues with Antonio Brown, and Julio Jones makes it pretty clear to me he doesn't want any of that in Atlanta.
Yeah, listen, I will say
Julio Jones comes off to me as a dude that, just tries to stay out of the limelight. He tries to stay out of trouble. He's good with the money. You can keep the fame off the field. He's good enough just dealing with the fame that he's accruing on the field. Antonio Brown is somebody who, in my view, not only is he a venerator of the Baphomet, as we're going to see, either in this segment or one of these other segments that I'm going to be doing a video on pertaining to Antonio Brown, it's obvious that he's just thirsty for attention. And a person like that is very dangerous. I'm not saying that he necessarily has malicious intent or anything like that, but he's a cat who's all over the place. And depending on your locker room and how close you think you are to getting to where you want to go, you just don't want a person like that in there. Because it's very rare that diva wide receivers are on championship teams. It's very rare. Like Michael Irvin, he was not really a diva wide receiver. He was somebody who was a go-getter. He was not somebody who brought negativity into the locker room. Oftentimes, diva wide receivers will start to bring negativity into the locker room. Michael Irvin was good with whatever productivity he was getting over the course of the game, as long as the team was winning. Antonio Brown's one of these guys who will claim that he's about winning, but really he's about getting his catches and, his targets, etc. And look, make no bones about it. I'm on record as stating that, in my view, Antonio Brown is the best wide receiver that I've seen other than Jerry Rice. A lot of cats disagree with me on that. It's okay. They bring up names like Terrell Owens and Randy Moss, and Marvin Harrison, Megatron, so on and so forth. You can have those guys. If I'm in a big game, I want Jerry Rice, I want Michael Irvin, I want Antonio Brown. Because I know that they're going to run any route in the route tree, and they're going to make any catch that I need them to make in a big spot. When it comes to Randy Moss, I've just seen Randy Moss shrink in too many big games. As talented as he was, show me the impact that Randy Moss had in the Super Bowls that he played in, or in the big games that he played in. He just did not have a great impact in the big games that he played in. I mean, no disrespect to him. Terrell Owens, he was phenomenal as well. But there were just too many stories of Terrell Owens blowing up locker rooms, whether they were true or not. If you go to 3 different franchises and all 3 have bad things to say about you, I'm not saying that you're a bad guy. And sometimes people, they just put out or propagate a certain energy that other people don't take well. They might not be a bad person, but other people might not just receive their energy very well. Maybe that's the issue with Terrell. Either way, just getting back to the point. If I'm trying to win a big game, I'm taking Jerry Rice, I'm taking Michael Irvin, and I'm taking Antonio Brown. And I'm sure a lot of cats will say, well, what big games has Antonio Brown ever won Super Bowl-wise? Well, he hasn't. But every time I've seen him in the playoffs, the dude has showed up.
We'll say this, man. He also must not want to beat the Saints in the NFC South in Atlanta, too.
Right.
Because on that football field, AB would make that offense unstoppable.
They would be unguardable, Van. They were 7-9 this year, a super disappointing year. I bet Matt Ryan would like AB on the team.
So what does AB want? AB actually today emerged. He was hanging out with another NFL superstar, Chad Ochocinco. The two of them were smoking cigars together. Remember in the preseason they were working out together. They ran routes. Ochocinco was trying to play cornerback and lock him up with funny stuff. They're good friends. But Antonio Brown at one
Chad Ocho is another great natural athlete. Dude is 40 years old and still is in phenomenal condition.
At one point, grabbed the phone and looked into the camera and addressed all of the
As we can see here, Antonio Brown throwing up the quote-unquote hang 10. Now that also is a symbol for the Baphomet, a.k.a. Baal, or the goat god, or what have you. Now Baal is the bull god. But any creature that was shown to have prominent horns will be a creature that will be associated with the so-called quote-unquote horn god, Cernunnos, or Pan, or what have you, whatever you want to call him, Baal. But we'll see that probably in this segment or another segment, because one of these segments they're going to show you something about Antonio Brown that pretty much is going to confirm what he's about. You know what's interesting? I also have information on Mr. Van Lathan, also showing that he is without a doubt a Saturnian, a venerator of Saturn, aka Capricorn, the goat god, or what have you.
Speculation and some of his haters out there about his football future. Here's what he said.
For all the negative speculations about my character, I'll be addressing it soon. I'll be sure to tap in with you guys. But it's all positive. I'm 31. I'm still excited to play. I'm here with one of my mentors, one of my brothers. Right now, man, I'm just embracing the new year. The start of something fresh. You know, that's all I can really give y'all right now. But yes, I'm 31 and I'm still excited to play the game.
You should still be excited to play the game, brother. You're still an exemplary wide receiver, no doubt about that. You're superlative out there on that football field.
I'm motivated, inspired, encouraged. Stay by the phone. My phone line's open.
I love that. I mean, that's interesting stuff. He's trying to say, I'm not over football. I'm not tired of this stuff.
What he's saying is I'm going to play somewhere, but it's probably not going to be with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Where does he land, Evan? Where do you want to see Antonio Brown?
Green Bay would be a great landing spot for Antonio Brown. There are a few other places where I could see him certainly shining, but Green Bay would be a great place. Who knows? Maybe Indianapolis. He could team up with T.Y. Hilton, his childhood friend. They're both from the Florida area. They would be a great 1-2 punch. And believe me, if he would have run up on Andrew Luck and say, Andrew, I need the ball more, Andrew would say, oh, sure, AB, I'll throw you the football in the next 5 possessions, 5 straight downs in a row. No doubt about it. I'm going to get you the football. Andrew Luck be funny as hell. They sack Andrew Luck on the way down like, great hit, guys. I love how you hit me in the kidney.
You know, Oakland is a good possibility. There's a lot of possibility on Oakland. 49ers have got a quarterback. They got Marquise Goodwin over there. That's good. But
Marquise Goodwin.
I guarantee you that if AB were a free agent, he'd probably try to sign with New England.
Goodwin and Jimmy G, man.
Yeah, they could use another wide receiver. There are a lot of destinations for him. You know, Miami could use a guy like him.
What team can't use the best wide receiver in the National Football League?
Look, we pretty much already know that if Antonio Brown is going to be traded, it's most likely going to be to an NFC team. Because the Roonies are not going to send him anywhere in the division, that's for sure. They're not going to send him to any conference rivals like the Patriots. They're not going to send him to the Broncos or any other team that might threaten for an AFC championship in the next couple years, because we know the Broncos, they have a couple off seasons and they always make a comeback. They're not going to send him to the Chiefs, so it's probably going to be somewhere in the NFC. I could see San Francisco. I could see maybe Seattle. I could see Green Bay.
Here's the thing, Miami could use a wide receiver, and we know that AB loves Miami, so that might be a really good fit too.
Actually, it might be a bad fit.
Oh, the trainer's too close.
The trainer's too close. And I don't want the trainer having access to AB. Run this video, man.
This is the trainer that was busting his ass over the preseason?
Yeah, I feel like AB doesn't want to be down there with this guy, having him do this in like November and December.
Yeah.
Yo, this dude Antonio Brown trains so hard, man. Anybody who's ever done road work on the beach or in the sand will tell you how hard that shit is.
There he is.
There he is right there. Look at him. He's not getting it. Look, he kicks the football, makes AB go get it.
That's his training strategy, is he tries to beat AB to the football and then kicks it down the beach.
Yeah, look.
He makes him chase it.
He makes him chase the football right on the sand. AB can't be down there with this guy.
AB went head-to-head with Ben Roethlisberger, went to his coach. He's not scared of anybody except this guy.
Yeah, this trainer treats Antonio Brown like he's a cadet in the Marines or something like that. Like he just He just talks to AB like he's a piece of shit. Kicks the ball around the beach and makes AB chase it, and AB don't say a damn thing.
Hey, look at this.
Go kick it. Go pick up my foot.
Go get it, and then he runs after it.
Nah, we gotta keep this guy away from AB, man. He can't be in Miami.
Or AB will go to prison for murder.
Exactly.
AB's in great condition, though. But anyway, we'll see what happens. It was just very interesting to see Julio Jones come out and say something like that. It's very obvious to me that either he does not like Antonio Brown personally because either he's had a bad experience with him or he's heard something about him around the league, or he does not want Antonio Brown trying to cut into his targets. But anyway, peace.